And we are live today on the Starship Texas, and we are talking about Star Trek Lower Decks, the new trailer that we just received. Hello, everyone. I am Fatheree, and I am joined today by Brian and Dave. So, gentlemen, how are y'all doing?
I'm doing all right, except for the food that I ordered that landed right before, like literally seconds before I jumped into the broadcast. So I ate one delicious Korean chicken wing, and the rest will have to wait. That is my dedication to Star Trek.
Or you can just eat in front of everyone.
No, that's gross. I'm not going to do that. I won't be that guy.
Okay.
I do it for friends, but not for the public. Holly is busy making a bunch of Indian naan bread and all sorts of goodness that is flowing in and smelling amazing.
That sounds good.
So, though I think we have a walk and some Doctor Who War Doctor audio to listen to before I actually get to eat any of it. So.
Wait, you have to watch these before you can eat? This is like a requirement.
No, a walk. a walk. We listen to the audio drama while we go for a walk, and I think we're doing that right after.
I heard right after, like the thing you make food in.
Yeah, no. So I think she's using one of those too, but just some sort of butter chicken thing or something.
I watched the trailer, by the way, one time, real quick, right before this too. I don't know if Father, I think you probably know these characters by name, and I don't know any of that stuff yet. So this is kind of my hot
funny.
take.
It's funny because in this age of the internet and everyone reacting quickly, yesterday when the trailer leaked prematurely, it was not supposed to come out as early as it did. But there were a lot of people scrambling to get some quick commentary on it on YouTube, and be like the first with like this breaking story and the first to have some insight on this. And I could tell virtually everyone doing that was unprepared because people were like, "Oh, I think this character's name is like Boimler or Balmer." I'm like, "No, it's Boimler. Have you not been paying attention?" So apparently, I'm the only person who has actually been reading about this show until now.
Well, that's because it looks like it's going to be crap. No, I'm just kidding. We'll get into it.
It's funny you say that because a lot of the previous naysayers are now enthusiastic after seeing the trailer.
I have not looked at any. I have not seen anybody's comments except whatever people posted on my own Facebook page.
All right, I should throw in that I only got Audacity recording about a minute ago. I realized
we don't need Audacity. We're live.
Oh, we don't. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We're on the YouTubes now.
If we screw up, it's all on us.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'll just switch that off so the computer isn't doing too much.
But I was just gonna take y'all through some of the images from the trailer. I typically don't do the frame by frame analysis, but because we've gotten so little marketing on this show, they kind of all of a sudden we're like, "Oh, by the way, it's coming out in a month, and maybe you'll get a trailer."
Also,
then, here's a trailer. So
this is seemingly, I would imagine, unless they're really hiding it, going to be less about plot-driven things and secret reveals. So I don't think we're going to necessarily spoil anything if we kind of scrutinize some images on this. We're not going to be like, "Oh, I guess I know what the mystery of the Red Angel is."
It's funny you say that because I think there is something in here that might spoil something if I'm right about it. And I don't even know if I want to bring it up because I don't want to potentially spoil it for other people.
Well, I don't know if it was quite a spoiler. I was just thinking of the sort of thematically comparable first episode of the Orville, and the trailer was primarily the humor, but there was definitely some plot stuff under that, and there were a few things, as I recall, at the end of the episode, one or two kind of cool things that it might have been a spoiler to have known about in advance, or it would have been a little less satisfying. So
I remember when the reviews of that.
What's that?
When the reviews of the first Orville episode hit, and the critics were pretty negative towards it, but they were spoiling every plot point in that initial episode, and then shortly after that was when Discovery decided to withhold their premiere episode for critics until the actual premiere. But I think it was because they didn't want people to spoil every little detail. Dave, I also remember how anytime we mentioned the Orville before it came out, You hated the trailers for that one going in.
Yeah. I'm tempering my my assessment of this one with that knowledge. Because that's precisely what they did is they top loaded the trailer with the kind of, I don't know, their dumbest jokes, I guess, and not the kind of the character humor is the stuff that I tend to like on Orville, which sort of relies on a little bit of familiarity with the characters, and their quips, some of those, like way too many of them fall flat, I think, and but they also couldn't really, or chose not to, like, let the trailer show any of the sort of more dramatic moments, which is generally what's going to hook me in. And so, no, I remember not really liking that. And I don't think I even, like, based on the first episode, was much into it. It took a few more episodes for me to kind of start enjoying it. So
yeah, it's hard to tell ahead of time sometimes.
Yeah. I will say, as since we're comparing these two, especially, I watched all of the season 1 and 2 of the Orville, and
right, you were somewhat dragged kicking and screaming by friends, as I recall.
Yes, yeah, pretty much, yep, dragged in. And I will admit, season 2 started to get a bit more entertaining, and that was the show. Orville did not know what it wanted to be. Did it want to be drama? Did it want to be a spoof? Did it want to be a screwball comedy? It really didn't know what it wanted to be. And it sort of
I would argue that it knew what it wanted to be, and it just wasn't great at that.
Well,
and I say this as, like, someone who is definitely more of a fan of it than you are. Like, I've had some episodes that I thought were really very good. Maybe even a few episodes I thought were great.
I guess I felt like it was doing such a bad job, I couldn't even tell what they were reaching for. I will say by the end of season 2, it feels like they're just kind of falling into off-brand Star Trek that's pretty lighthearted. Which isn't bad as long as the stories are good. That's fine. Babylon 5 is arguably off-brand Star Trek, but has excellent stories. So I love it more than a lot of real Star Trek or licensed Star Trek. This show, judging by the trailer, I feel like they know what they want it to be. We might not like it, but I think they know what kind of show they're making, judging by this trailer. And they're on point with achieving the goals they want. Whether or not that goal includes us enjoying it is yet to be seen. But I will say they feel focused and on top of their game.
Fatheree, you've been tracking the behind the scenes stuff and sort of tonal intent from the showrunners and stuff like that. And I seem to recall just from messages you sent earlier that some of those things didn't necessarily come through in the trailer. So this may yet, although this has a pretty clear idea of its style of humor, I think we haven't seen too much of whatever level of drama they're going to interject into it. So I don't know. I feel like I don't know that we've necessarily seen whatever their blend is yet.
Yeah, definitely. But there definitely are things in here that I want to mention that it is very apparent that they are doing exactly what they're doing. Like, just the look, the aesthetics of the show is so specifically that TNG flavor. Just anytime I see a ship or a uniform or any piece of technology,
or LCARS, the LCARS interface.
LCARS.
Did you pause and look at the bridge?
Yes.
It is absolutely the TOS bridge. I mean, they've changed just enough that you can't say it's a complete copy.
TNG bridge.
TNG bridge.
Yeah, we're gonna look at all that stuff. But everything is so recognizable. Everything is so instantly recognizable as latter half of the 24th century. And
I was just going to say, before we dive into any individual images, do we want to do, like, just our quick assessment? I think we've to some degree said it, but do we want to just, like, each take them 30 seconds or whatever and just say a general thoughts or something?
Sure. Dave,
Brian,
you go first since it's your idea.
Am I first? I think Brian should go first.
All right, I'll go first. So
30 seconds.
I guess, yes. I feel that it's the same feeling after watching this trailer I had before. Making fun of Star Trek tropes can be really, really fun, but I don't think there's a lot of legs or mileage to be had there. And making a one-shot movie or maybe a mini series is quite possible, but I feel like there's only so many tropes you can mine, and then you're repeating mining the tropes for humor. And I I think if they said this was a 2-hour special coming up, I'd be really hyped. But I'm really kind of worried that this is going to get old after 2 or 3 or 4 episodes. And I want to be wrong. I want this to be amazing. And I'm like, I can't believe I doubted it. But yeah, I have a sense of dread, and the fact that, there were a few jokes that I loved the hell out of, but a lot of jokes in the trailer I was kind of like, okay.
That's what the showrunners like to hear when people talk about something, is a sense of dread. I actually didn't notice that many tropes other than that, like they mentioned a captain's log and things like that, but it was mostly actually kind of like spoofs of he was like a spoof of a go-getter type, and it was kind of like workplace ribbing and, stuff like that. Like, I don't know that there were actually that many, to me, there was Star Trek context to them, but I don't know if they quite felt like Star Trek spoofs to me. Hey, we got somebody else in the mix here.
Yeah, Sohel has joined us, but yeah, go ahead and continue, Dave.
Anyway, yeah, but somewhat, I think my opinion of it is almost the same as it was before, which is it doesn't look like it's for me. It's I don't really do cartoon that much. I've never watched Rick and Morty. It doesn't, most of it doesn't look super appealing. What I want to see is whatever drama they have lying, underneath there. I did think some of the looks were really cool. Then a few of the gags landed for me. There's enough there for me to want to try it out, but not maybe enough for me to be super hopeful about it. That's my take.
Okay, and we are joined by Starfleet Boy.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Lots of stuff, lots of information to parse on the internet. And I was just settling in from the evening, and I was like, "Oh, cool! Yay, this is happening!" Cheers.
I'm glad you're taking the time to join us. We were going to kind of go through this trailer frame by frame, not frame by frame, but scene by scene, and just talk a little bit about what we think or feel about everything that was revealed to us yesterday. Before we get started, though, do you want to just give your quick hot take on how you feel about the show after seeing the trailer?
Totally excited about it. I think especially for me personally, because of just the nature of the world at the moment, I could really use the laughs. So I'm pleased that those laughs are going to involve Star Trek in some way, and that they're officially from Star Trek. And then the other thing is I have a ton of thoughts, which I won't go into, but in a nutshell, I'm excited. I mean, I'll go into it if we get there, but
I think we'll probably get there.
It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, and I'll just give my reaction real quick, and then we'll go ahead and get started. But
you have Bolian fever, Fatheree.
Have Bolian fever?
Yeah. I'm just talking crazy shit.
By the way, Dave, nice to meet you. I don't think we've ever met. Brian, we've met.
Yeah, no, I don't know if we have necessarily. Good to see you.
Likewise. So I feel a fanboy right now. I'm fanning out because I watched the show, so this is really cool.
On,
I feel like Dave is never not around me, because I'm always editing our podcast and our videos and stuff, and so I'm constantly hearing his voice and seeing his face. To the point that it's driving me borderline mad. But
I bet sometimes you just kind of fist bump me on the screen when you're editing and stuff like that, and you're it's like he's right here.
Yeah.
No, but I've been following, Lower Decks from the first time they announced it. I saw Mike McMahan and the writing staff at Las Vegas a year ago, back in August, and I've been really excited about a lot of the things they've been saying they wanted to do with the show. I'm really on board with the 30-minute sitcom format, just to have some variety in the plethora of Star Trek shows we're getting. My major concern is that I do worry about the comedy getting a little too ridiculous and goofy, that it kind of shatters the quasi-believability that we expect in canonical Star Trek. But I'm willing to cut them some slack. I don't want it to be as ridiculous science that couldn't possibly happen in real life as Futurama. I just want it to feel this could believably happen within the Star Trek universe. That being said, I do want this show to make me laugh, and if it's funny enough, I can cut on some extra slack and go along with anything. I liked a lot of what was in this trailer, but some of that stuff that we'll get into in a moment, it does kind of unnerve me a little bit, because I'm like, ooh, that is a really weird thing to do in this universe that's always been presented as half-assed believable in like that weird sci-fi quasi-believable way.
It's definitely established its own parameters.
So would most of your this complaint be alleviated if they had explicitly said this is not canon?
Yes, but I would prefer it to be canon, because I want.
Yeah,
I want to flesh out that universe that I'm already invested in.
Yeah.
But I'll compare it to this. There's an animated comedy that's really hot right now that I love. It's great, better than anyone I think thought it would be. But the Harley Quinn show streaming on DC Universe, I love that. But it is so bonkers that if it was like canonical with like, say, like the Bruce Timm DC animated universe from like the 90s and the zeros, I would pull my hair out. It would like it would ruin some of that for me. So. I see that we got some people in the chat, so I'm just gonna say hi to
exciting, yeah.
Boat Wreck, Caleb, and Dan Gunther. Kurtzman Productions is watching. So hi to all of y'all. Thank you for joining us.
Very cool.
Father, I'm aligned with like a lot of what you were saying. It actually resonates with me very deeply. I like, and especially since like Star Trek the animated series went through this like period of canonization where like people weren't sure, and then and then they were like, okay, yeah, TAS gets to be canon, but I don't know if we can tell yet what the true tone of the show is. I think PJ, he's like kind of waiting and holding out, and I am too, but those things that you mentioned definitely like concern me for sure.
I noticed you have a green screen behind you.
Soon. Yes.
I think
the hollow projectors on the Starship Texas are like deactivated for maintenance right now.
I want somebody to put you in the... I want somebody to use that and put you in the like the psychedelic tunnel from Willy Wonka, where it gets scary. Anyway, it's just fun.
Oh my gosh, that'd be great.
I'm just gonna not touch that and move on.
Yeah. Now, I would assume you're not going to hold this to a higher threshold of believability than you do the 1973 animated series.
No, but that actually works for me. There's nothing in the animated series that I feel like is too wacky for canonical Star Trek.
All right, so that provides us at least some sort of baseline of what you consider to be too wacky, is more wacky than this. So
something I've learned from Dave, that he admitted to me one time, he doesn't even remember saying this, but like it really stuck with me. I'm like, that's so smart. I'm still
I do a lot of that stuff.
But one time, it was actually when we were talking about like Discovery and like redesigning and reimagining things, and the thing he said is that in the end, quality always wins, and if whatever you're doing, you can break the rules, you can do whatever, as long as it's good enough, as long as the quality is there, it can be good enough that it will still be preferable, that it'll still win people over. So I want the show to be funny. If something's funny enough, then okay, like I'll excuse like the weird science or the cartoon logic or whatever.
Yeah,
I think that's true.
I think for me, like the threshold is the believability of the universe. And in what I've seen in the trailer for Lower Decks, it's like, yes, the characters are out of character for Starfleet officers, but so far, like the physics and like the displays and like the technology and just kind of like the general universe seems intact within the Star Trek canon, if you will.
Yeah,
it looks more visually like.
It's like if sitcom characters wandered onto a Galaxy-class ship.
I would also say none of these people.
Class.
None of these people in this trailer so far, from what data points we've got, are any kookier than Barclay.
Right.
No. Yeah,
Barclay would feel
but I guess it's
right
not
at home with these guys.
We don't have a
these are the
bridge
types
full
of characters
Barclays.
I would want. I like all these characters.
Okay.
It's like trying to like pump someone's heart after you pulled it out of their chest, or like fighting the Hulk in a Coliseum and stuff. I wanted to wait till we got into this to talk about, but
all right. Shall we start looking at some of the specific images and bounce off of whatever they show us?
Yeah,
I like this space travel look in this image
it looks like a
the
normal warp effect and not like a Star Wars hyperdrive tunnel. I love this. And you have like the added thing of like the character is looking out the back of the ship because she's at like, if you look at like that poster, that animated poster they put out a couple weeks ago, that arrow pointing to like the very back rear section of the saucer on the I gotta remember how to say it. The Cerritos, yeah.
Cerritos. Yeah.
It bothers me that like everyone says it wrong, and now it started making me say it wrong.
Trek on the Tube. Shout out to Trek on the Tube, who's missing all of this excitement because he's somewhere in the wilderness,
camping with his family.
Yeah, exactly.
Our friend Sean has been he's been like the most excited for Star Trek Lower Decks, and he's like out in the wilderness right now. So
he has no idea any of this is happening.
But he'll be laughing last when we're all dead of COVID. So
true.
Hey, is Cerritos? Does that mean anything? Is it a Spanish word?
I think it means small hill or little hill in Spanish, but that's the name of a city in California. So I'm assuming California class. They're probably all named stuff like Pasadena or
that's kind of a cool little theme.
Yeah,
it is.
I'm offended that we got a California class starship before we got a Texas class starship.
Yeah.
Is there in any of your villages a Texas class star? There's none. There's not.
No. But there should be, because the great bird of the galaxy, Gene Roddenberry, was born in Texas. So.
I heard that they made some Star Trek in California at some point. That might have some bearing.
Everything but Discovery and Star Trek Beyond, actually. So. But speaking of the California class, we got some additional. Oops, that's the wrong thing. Sorry, we got some additional looks at the California class ship in this trailer. We got to see it from some different angles other than that poster we got recently. So, how does everyone feel about this ship?
I mean, it's not the ugliest ship I've ever seen in the Berman era, come out of the Berman era, but it's never. It's not going to be my favorite.
Is that like is that CG but with maybe some cell shading on top?
Probably.
Yes. I feel like just the craft of it, like it looks neat to me. These photos we're looking at, or these stills we're looking at, they look really cool to me. It's kind of weird how it's like so elevated on its struts or whatever you call those dudes. But I liked it better than I thought I would. I think it looks kind of cool.
It does absolutely feel like it flew. It absolutely feels like it flew out of the Berman era.
Yes,
right.
And that's why
it does
I love
true to form.
And I like that it's not like a glorious, beautiful ship. It doesn't look like it's super tough. It doesn't look like it's sleek and sexy. It looks like a really weird kit bash that would have been in the background at Wolf 359. And that's exactly what they're going for here. That's why I think like so much of the design that goes into the look of the show is so smart and so specifically hitting a mark with obvious intent that regardless of if I love or hate the show, if I enjoy the stories or not, I have to give them credit on just they totally nailed the aesthetic they were going for.
Sort of the thought process behind it, is really fits in with what their intent is.
It does look like you could buy a few Star Trek model kits and build this thing without too much trouble. Yeah.
Someone 3D printed it, but I would love to see someone actually kit bash it. It would be really cool. If,
There's probably, I assume that someone out there is doing that, and someone out there, some cosplayers, I assume have already worked up some Lower Decks cosplay.
Yes,
I don't know if I've seen it yet.
A bunch of cosplayers
of it.
Yeah,
there weren't any.
Linda Butler comes to mind.
Back in Vegas, which was in August, it was just a few weeks after they revealed the look of the characters in San Diego Comic-Con. Back in July of last year. So in August of last year, Mike McMahan was telling people, I see a lot of cosplayers, but I noticed no one is cosplaying Lower Decks. So what's up with that? Y'all need to step it up. Come on now. And since then, I have seen pictures online of people cosplaying these lower deck uniforms.
That's always like cosplayers always impress me, but it is weird to me to imagine trying to embody a character whose personality you don't know, and maybe you've never even heard their character voiced or anything yet.
Well, you don't have to cosplay a character to cosplay a uniform.
Yes, you do.
Like I don't assume everyone in like a gold TOS uniform is cosplaying.
No, you have to get into it like a FBI profiler, where you know the character in and out. No, it just seems a little. It's just kind of. I mean, if anything, it's just kind of cool to people who get those aesthetics before they know exactly what's going on. It reminds me of the weird thing though, like where like DC's earliest Star Trek Next Generation comics were based on very little information, and the characters almost looked like superheroes the way they were drawn. All kind of
those. I read some of those.
I do remember those too.
Yeah, those are infamous. But
you could cosplay as those characters from the episode Nemesis and they're just commandos. Like you could cosplay as so much from Star Trek. It's crazy.
It's true.
I was thinking of the Harry Mudd episode of the animated series with those bear people on the minor planet Motherlode. They were Ursinoids, I think. I was actually looking online for like a bear mask and some green coveralls, trying to figure out what would it cost to cosplay as an Ursinoid.
I have a question on the frame before, Father. I saw this on the internet, and I also agree with Dan in the comments that I am also eagerly awaiting and will purchase the Eagle Moss model. But like, can you go back? Go back another one? Like, what's that well with the windows? What do you reckon that is?
That's the volleyball court.
I like that actually.
Okay? If we're gonna be like really nerdy on the ship, it looks like
I'm sure this has already been done online, but I haven't seen the answer.
Judging by that rectangle on the front, it looks like the bridge might be on deck 2 instead of deck 1.
Ooh, very nice.
So, Dave was like, who cares about where the bridge is?
I assume those lumps on either sides are the phasers, which interestingly, it seems to have more phaser arrays. Well, no, maybe those rings are. I guess the ring.
Yeah.
Rings. I will say, looking especially at the side saucer section that you had, that's a few slides, one slide forward from this. Maybe another slide. Sorry, I can't count. Math is
those things could be photon torpedo launchers on the sides. Maybe.
So yeah, that's
I just thought of something as far as Fatheree. You know how you were talking about the different motifs and like thematics. Does that yellow piping form an omega symbol, as in the end, like they're the tail end?
No,
it kind of does. But I mean, like it made me think of like Darkseid from DC Comics.
Yeah.
But,
more like, but it's more like they're in the butt end of Starfleet or something.
Yeah,
it could be part of the Omega Squadron or something. Even though that sounds like cooler than
who knows?
They actually are doing.
No, I think Starfleet boys got it.
What is that?
That's an IDIC.
The IDIC symbol.
Oh.
It's right there on the top of the saucer. You called it.
Yay.
Oh, did we find an Easter egg?
I would say so.
One thing I want to ask y'all though is like, do y'all see a shuttle bay anywhere on this?
That recessed hole in the top could be the shuttle bay. It could be a lower, like the shuttle bays on DS9.
Out, like on DS9, you're absolutely right. But also, that's great. I think you solved it. Those things on the sides, Ketwalski pointed out, might be shuttle bays. If you go forward, those dark spaces on the sides there.
Oh yeah, that could be. I want to say this ship is huge.
Yes.
If that's 3 decks in the saucer, this thing is bigger. Probably has a bigger internal volume than a Galaxy class.
It's very big, even without like the secondary hull. That's like. I don't know how many hundreds of meters the saucer would be in diameter.
Yeah, I mean, it may have been had a Berman for a mother, but I think it had a J.J. Abrams for a father. It's huge.
I wonder if that's just like, I mean, they seem to be putting so much thought into this, but I haven't gotten any vibe that it's supposed to be this beast of a ship. Is it possible that that's just how the aesthetics rolled out?
Yeah, I do wonder.
We should discuss like what the mission of the ship is, because a lot of people, like I said, like haven't really been paying attention, and they probably weren't thinking about this show much until the trailer came out. So,
they could have called this show Star Trek: Second Contact, right?
Well, that doesn't sound like a very marketable name, but I like Lower Decks a lot more. But the idea is that the ship follows up on the first contact mission. So you have like the flagship, like the Enterprise goes and meets the new worlds and the new civilizations, and then these are the people who like come behind them. So
I feel like, what are they? There's exploration branch, there's research and scientific branch, and then diplomacy. I think it's a diplomatic vessel. If that's
I
the
do
case,
wonder,
if it's doing second contents.
just like
Contact.
just like how every Star Trek episode starts with "We're boldly going where no man has gone before," and seeking out new life and new civilizations. A whole lot of the episodes are not actually that. And I do wonder, is every episode actually going to be a second contact, or is that really going to be like 5% of the stories?
That's quite possible.
Yeah, I think just like the idea of like they're going to a new planet each week, or potentially going to a planet each week. They're on the move. There's going to be very episodic stories. We're going to have a very different scenario with a different setting and different guest characters every week. So I think that's more of just like, okay, what is a good story generator premise to have in the show that's going to show these guys as kind of like the B team of Starfleet? And I like the second contact idea. I think that's that checks all those boxes.
Yeah, I'm not complaining about it. I'm just curious as to how tightly they're going to adhere to it.
Starfleet boys, you were talking about the different branches. What's I actually, this is I probably should know this, but I'm not familiar with them sort of mentioning those specific branches too often. Is that a canonical?
I think, well, I don't know. All I can say is that from watching TNG fairly recently, like I've been watching it for like the last 4 years, they don't like, no one ever spells out like, we haven't had the Starfleet Academy moment where someone just spells out what every division of Starfleet and the Federation and everything it is. But so far in Starfleet, it looks like you definitely have a diplomatic corps or something, because I think I have to find, there's got to be someone.
I think they do reference a diplomatic corps. That is a term this year.
Corps. There's a Starfleet Corps of Engineers, the SCE.
And so the Cerritos could totally be a vessel. Yeah, like second contact missions do sound like a sense, like on paper, it sounds like you have to have them. Like, Jean-Luc, you like everyone gets to do the first contact, but then a ship has to come back and like nurture that relationship and like continue helping these people integrate into like,
now at the risk of getting into the weeds, it would seem like second contact would not be a one and done planet of the week premise. That would be we stop and we talk to this planet for a month and then we move on to the next planet and establish all sorts of diplomatic stuff. It doesn't sound like the sort of thing where it's going to be quick. Now I suspect the show's not going to be like that, but maybe they'll skip along. Maybe each episode takes place a month later.
The whole first season is one planet.
It's
I don't think that's going to be the case.
No, I think that like I imagine first contacts occur in clusters as you move further out from known regions or explored space, and so you could probably have one ship cover like a few systems on the regular and do rounds of like second contact type activities, just as a guess. Like that's nothing, that's my headcanon, but but I imagine that you could do it like that.
Yeah, Boat Wreck in the chat has mentioned that perhaps the ship is so big because they have to transport many people regularly. I mean, like, yeah, that's a possibility. They might be hauling people or equipment or
I suppose they could be dropping off diplomatic teams and then leaving them on these planets. They deliver the diplomats to the planet, and then they move on to the next planet and drop another load.
I don't want to get too excited in case it's a tugboat.
That's not a tug. It's way too big to be a tug.
The more people that basically pass through the ship, the more opportunities they have for comedy and drama. So it would kind of make sense if they are moving a lot of people around, or hosting a lot of contacts and stuff like that, or
stuff. Let's talk about these characters. In the trailer, right off the bat, after we're introduced to the ship, we're immediately introduced to what I believe will be the two primary leads. We have Jack Quaid voicing Brad Boimler, the gentleman pictured on screen, and Tawny Newsome playing Beckett Mariner. I liked the joke here where it's a fake out with a captain's log entry. And we are kind of shown who these characters are real quick. Boimler is the nerd. He wants to like study hard and ace the test and be a good little Starfleet officer. And Mariner is more of the laid back, casual, like flippant. I can't believe you're taking this so seriously. What a nerd type character, and the little bit of natural antagonism that would boil up between the two of them, especially when she catches him in kind of a compromised situation where he's doing something really embarrassing that I thought was funny, and I could totally picture Sylvia Tilly or Harry Kim or other like young officers with big ambition doing something like this, where they're pretending to do a captain's log.
Hey, is he? I can't tell if he's in the shadow or if he has vaguely like purple skin. Is he human? He had purple hair,
Yes,
but that don't mean nothing.
He was hiding. He's hiding in like the closet, like doing his captain's log entry.
Yeah.
When she catches him.
There's a shot where you can
okay,
see
so he is human. Presumably, they're
human.
Probably both are.
Or humanoid.
Yeah, I know his hair is purple, but I think that's meant to represent black hair or dark brown.
Okay.
The uniforms they're wearing are obviously like a throwback to TNG, but they kind of wrap around like a monster maroon. I like the look.
It kind of looked
cool.
like escapees from the abandoned Generations uniforms.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Are you guys familiar with their work, Tawny Newsome and Jack Quaid?
I'm not very familiar with hardly any of these actors. I saw Tawny Newsome on an episode of Twilight Zone recently, also streaming on CBS All Access.
I saw her on I watched the Space Force show, and she's actually really great in that show. I like.
Yeah, Brian, you watched that?
Yeah, Space Force is a lot of fun.
Yeah, she's the helicopter pilot,
Yep.
and Jack Quaid plays an awesome character. And I love the series The Boys. I know it's really like gruesome and and over the top, but he's pretty awesome in that.
Who does he play on that? I only know it. I haven't watched the show, but I'm vaguely familiar with the comic. What's his character?
Now I'm drawing a blank on his name, but it's the main character who basically his girlfriend gets killed, and the whole story starts from that event. Yeah, he's
not like Wee Huey, is he? Is he
Huey? That's it. Yeah, isn't
okay.
it Huey? Okay, yeah, that's him. I can believe I can remember Huey.
Okay, no, that's pretty notable.
The only thing I dislike about these uniforms is that I wish that they had the traditional comm badge that we see post Generations and most of DS9
instead of just
and all
the Delta.
Voyager. Yeah, but I think that was just an animation thing. This is going to be a lot easier to animate, kind of like how Superman normally has the S logo, like the Krypton House of L logo on the back of his cape. But in like every animated version of Superman, they remove that just to make it easier to animate.
All right.
I see they are continuing the Starfleet tradition of having things balanced, sitting on shelves as if their ship will never, ever shake at all. But that was a mainstay of the Berman era as well, so I can't really criticize them.
Only the bridge shakes. The sick bay doesn't shake, quarters don't shake, only the bridge.
But what do y'all think about?
I never thought about that before.
You never see Picard walk into his quarters after a big space fight and everything's trashed all over the floor. He's like, God damn it.
That would be a fantastic gag to put into this show. They should for sure do that and hook Brian up with some money.
Cheers.
Well, what do y'all think about like what we see with Mariner and Boimler in this trailer? I can already tell that Ensign Mariner is going to be my favorite character here. I think she's more relatable to me than most characters I have on Star Trek shows.
Just the fact that she's kind of jumping on top of him points to a level of physical slapstick that we don't usually get in Star Trek, and might even be hard to actually pull off in a live action show.
For sure.
It's hard to have actors tumble out onto the corridor and make it look natural.
Here, just on the level of a trope, do you think there's supposed to be any sort of romantic tension that would be like a vague hint of?
That is something that they often build to on characters. Whenever your two leads are a man and a woman,
and you just get them physically close. It just kind of sometimes it means something.
I mean, I would prefer if they don't do that, and maybe they go through some arc where they start off as kind of like antagonistic, and maybe like they bond. And I would, if it was up to me, as someone who hasn't even seen this show yet, I would kind of prefer if they avoided the traditional trope and just had them be like platonic friends, or I don't know. But
how about fuck buddies?
Sure.
Oh my god, you took the thoughts out of my head and articulated them.
As long as we're making wild guesses based on basically no evidence whatsoever, he does start out hiding in a closet, so it might be that he's not into girls at all.
Brian, I totally thought of that. That's as soon as Fatheree just used those words, I'm like, oh, everything is a symbol. This is like Watchmen now, and everything has a meaning.
Okay, well, I think y'all are reading too much into that.
I think so too, but it's funny.
We have PJ with us. We've been joined by Boatwreck.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Boatwreck, what do you think of this next image here, where we finally see a shuttlecraft that isn't a Discovery shuttlecraft?
You're never gonna let that go.
No.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting that the Cerritos has CBS All Access plastered on its. No, I'm just kidding.
That makes some advertising money. That is not unlike the card. The pursuit of money does enter that into their world.
Do you guys recognize what species that guy in the front might be, or even Tendi, who's this character, the green?
Well, Tendi's Orion, I think. We can.
Oh, duh! Oh my gosh,
she's a Orion.
I'm actually really excited about seeing a main character Orion in Starfleet.
Yeah.
I really want to see how that happens. I mean, I know we've seen glimpses of them in the Kelvinverse, but I want, as a main character, I'm actually really looking forward to seeing what they do with that.
Yeah, and I would actually like to use her as a way to maybe tell some Orion stories. Maybe see we've never really had a good on-screen explanation of how the Orion Syndicate works. Why did the Orions look so different in the animated series compared to Enterprise, compared to Discovery? I wouldn't mind exploring some of that stuff.
Maybe tell some Orion stories that aren't about sex and slavery.
Yeah, well, it has to be about crime in some form.
Does it
have to be pirates?
Every Orion has to be a criminal.
That's kind of like their thing, though. Klingons have to be warriors, Vulcans have to be logical.
They all at the very least have to interact with it. But I was never sure. I thought the Orion Syndicate was I guess it is that. That is their form of government. It's not that they are just there's a dominating criminal organization. It's it is their government, right?
No, well, the Syndicate is an underworld organization that is flat out illegal. I mean, you're in Federation space. You do not want to tell anyone you're working for the Orion Syndicate. That's okay. That's basically, I don't know. It's I can't think of any real world. It's like saying I work for Jabba the Hutt, I guess.
I guess that's true.
But
that's
a
really cool shot.
Other Star franchise, they are kind of like crime lords who run planets and stuff.
Yes, but yeah, you wouldn't. It's not something you'd be bragging about in most Federation circles. So
could the Cerritos be the flagship of the diplomatic corps? Because if you go back, that's a gorgeous gold emblem.
Right, it's really nice looking.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You rarely see it quite like that, I think, in Star Trek. I like
the idea with Ensign Tendi is she's going to be the newcomer aboard the ship who is all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and excited to be here, and is probably going to be surrounded by more jaded people who they're yeah, it's just a job. Get over it. But
that probably means that she'll be the source of a chunk of exposition too, as people explain stuff to her and fill her in.
Yeah, most of your X-Men stories begin with a new mutant joining the X-Men.
It's true. I like the Andorian in that little clip too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's also antennae.
Down here, we have an Endorian. There are a lot of established Trek aliens in Lower Decks. That's something that fans are always asking for with each of these new Star Trek shows. Something that I was frustrated the Kelvin movies didn't do more of. Show us more of Endorians and Tellarites and these established Federation.
It's always a little weird to me that Trek in general doesn't take a bit more advantage of their iconic aliens. Their background ones, anyway.
Well,
yeah,
Mike McMahan seems to be, really into that. And I don't know.
He said something about wanting to write a love letter to Star Trek in his own way, and he's like a humorous person, so I think that's going to be something. I already can see from the details just in the backgrounds and everything that on one level that's totally already evident. It's pretty cool. This is their Naked Now, but the horror version, right? Where everyone
I don't think I really caught what was going on in this in motion. Jesus Christ.
Black tar turning people into zombies. I think this is when Tendi comes aboard because Dr. Tiana, our Cation character, Cation from the animated series, so bringing back another familiar Trek race, but yeah, she's kind of seems like if Dr. Pulaski was a Cation, and I like having this grumpy lady doctor. Most doctors are kind of grumpy in real life, but when she's just green girl, come over here and help me with this. And this is where I thought it was a little weird, where she has to physically pump a human's heart. I'm like,
and it's one of the bridge crew, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, this is weird. I don't know if this, even with the incredible Star Trek medical technology, I don't know if you can rip someone's heart out and pump it and keep them alive and them not.
I do know that heart.
Sorry,
I do know that heart massaging and there are cases where they have doctors have literally been physically compressing the heart with their hands. However, I thought that was usually the hand going into the chest, not pulling the heart out. That usually
I'm sure she used some hand sanitizer first.
Yeah, she looks real clean. Look at her. She obviously got all cleaned up.
PJ hasn't said a word. What's going on, PJ?
I'm just listening.
Doesn't Jet Reno take a heart from one species and use it to pump the heart?
Tellarite.
To pump blood. Yeah, Tellarite. That's what it was.
I don't think it looked like this when she was doing that. Farpoint Station in the chat says, I want to see a Boolean bowel movement centered episode. They've never really explained why their waste is so hard for the ship to process.
Is that a thing?
Boolean bowel movements. This is the first I've ever heard of that being something that anyone would want to explore in Star Trek.
When would we have seen that in Voyager? I can't remember in DS9.
That's not a thing. That's not a.
No, it sounds like a throwaway line about their waste being hard to process.
Oh, maybe it is. Maybe it is.
I think it might have been, and that's Farpoint Station is ready for this question to be explored.
You know what? If they were going to explore that, this would be the show to do it.
Probably
it would make a lot more sense to do it here than in Star Trek Picard. Can you imagine Patrick Stewart looking at that script and he's like, "You want me to? What? You want me to
all
say
of the TNG cast can be on the show as voice actors? It could totally happen. By the way, I feel like they could have an encounter with the Enterprise at some point in the future. It'd be pretty fun."
Patrick Stewart's done some pretty raunchy humor. I think he'd do the Boolean poop episode. He played the poop emoji.
Yeah.
He was in Blunt Talk.
And Blunt Talk, you got to watch. Yeah, I love.
Yeah.
Talk. It's like such a
The
good
show is not streaming anywhere, is it? I only saw the first episode, but I loved it.
It's so good. 2 seasons. I have 2 seasons, but it's how do you call it? It's protected somehow. You can't share it, but maybe they'll put it on Netflix. Let's hope.
So, I do love this non-Discovery shuttlecraft, and I like that one of the things that they're going to do with animation is they can still give us these very Star Trek-y locations. They look like something that are compatible with the established universe, but might be a little too big budget for a weekly TV show, like this Crystal Planet here.
Yeah.
And I don't know what this little bug critter is, but I guess he's having a conversation with them.
He's so cute. He's like a glowworm.
This is where I worry about the cartoon logic. This is kind of like pumping the
one
heart.
of those SETI eels, is he?
No, but
how do you know? It could be a cartoon version. They're segmented.
I would assume it's not because those things don't talk.
Oh, does it-
Alpha Eels has very prominent mandibles, and this has not prominent mandibles.
Oh, that's true. They do. Does that thing speak, Fatheree, in the trailer?
Oh, it looks like it's speaking, but there's no audible dialogue in the trailer.
It's just shrieking.
It could just be shrieking. It's true.
That's what the subtitle will read.
I love
shrieking.
this shot. I love the detail. I don't think anything makes sense there, but it still looks so good. Like it looks like a correct interpretation.
Yeah,
of
I was
the
going to
L-cars
ask,
on the side.
does Picard or Disco, do they use the L-Cars design?
Picard does a little bit. In like Picard's house on his replicator that he got the tea Earl Grey decaf out of.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was in the Starfleet archives, they have L-cars that look similar, but not exactly like the Okudagrams from the Berman era. This looks a lot more spot on. And Brian, I know you're a big Stardate guy. Right here, where it has 57436.2. Is that that's a Stardate, right?
Let's see. It's got the right number of digits. I don't know off the top of my head if it fits the year or not, but it might. It's a 5. It should start with a 5.
Google.
So
it's a new Stardate, so it takes place in an unknown time.
Well, we know that the year, I should have said that for the people who haven't been paying attention. We know that the year of the show is 2380. It's 1 year after Star Trek Nemesis.
Actually, no, I think you're right. That is a star date, and that is the right star date, as I recall now, because I'm running a role-playing game that takes place shortly before Nemesis, and I do start each game session with a star date, and they start with 5/6, I think.
I like it.
So this 5/7 would be next year. Huh?
Is your role-playing game being streamed at all? Can people participate?
It's not streaming. I suppose I could stream it. I don't know. It seems like so many people are streaming games that I'd just be lost in the ocean. But
we're trying to get a role-playing game streaming on Starfleet Boy After Dark, so maybe we could talk later.
Well, let me know. I'd be up for listening anyway. So
Brian hates to talk about his Star Trek role-playing games.
Oh, no. No, I can talk. Yeah, a lot.
But this shot here, it's kind of showing us a day in the life of Ensign Mariner, where she has like all of the shitty jobs, no pun intended. But here, turbo lift lubing, holodeck waste removal, carbon filter maintenance.
Yeah, these jobs make no sense in the universe, though.
Why would they not make sense?
Because
could it be could it be a thing where Captain Freeman's just a hard ass and doesn't let anything happen automatically? She's like, that's her MO. She's like, shut off all the auto systems. You're going to lube the turbo lifts by hand.
Well, I would. They don't say lube turbo lift by hand. Now, I do wonder about holodeck waste removal.
Yeah, that's
the one that seems a little
bit
odd
of that
to me.
here, and she doesn't look very thrilled to be doing it.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is kind of a cheap gag.
It is a cheap gag, yeah.
I mean, because a holodeck,
it's not meant to be taken seriously.
They explicitly say that if the holodeck, when the holodeck switches off, it takes everything on it, including replicated stuff, and dematerializes it, just like when
yeah.
So why would there be waste left over?
What happens if I'm
a cruel captain, a mean captain who wants these things to happen to her lower decks?
If I throw up on the holodeck, where does it go?
It would be disintegrated the same way your plate and leftover bone and your steak are disintegrated when you put them back in the replicator when you're done.
Right.
Yes.
No, that makes sense. But I wasn't sure because I would expect the replicator to anything that is to say the holodeck to take care of all of its own stuff. But if I added organic material to it, it's got to disintegrate, I guess, somewhere.
I mean, I suppose there could be some new safety protocol that anything that's actually organic doesn't get disintegrated, just as a safety protocol, so that you can never have it. If we push the wrong isolinear chip, everyone will be disintegrated, Captain. In these holodeck malfunctions, there could be and in which case the holodeck has to do something else with any organic residue left over. So this is all the bits from the organic stuff left over from Vulcan Love Slave 2 and stuff. That's a whole lot of Vulcan Love Slave 2 playing there, actually.
From various different alien species too. But as Farpoint Station in the chat is calling it, it's all jasm, blood, and tears.
Yeah.
I have a feeling PJ's right though that it may just be a cheap gag.
Well, the thing about
it could be a cheap gag, but doesn't have a rationale for it.
But the thing about the holodeck is that there is like holographic environments, but it's also mixed with actual water, like a real rock here and there. Like you could, like in the first episode of TNG when Data picks up the rock and throws it at the wall. That's a real rock, but it's surrounded by holographic rocks. So when the program disappears and everything goes away, Wesley Crusher, who fell in the water, can come out and still be wet because that was real water.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So.
Yes, and it can disintegrate that water and rock when you switch it off, but it might be a new. There could be a new safety system that stops anything that's actually organic.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you dropped a deuce in there, it might have enough organic DNA in it to trigger the safety systems.
Yeah.
So it would have to do something else with it. I mean, I'm just spitballing here, trying to justify what does seem to be a bit silly.
They might even have like a throwaway line that explains it. But
I agree with that.
Is that they want us to see that Ensign Mariner has, one of the worst jobs that an officer on the ship would have. And they talked about her, I think at Comic-Con last year, when they said that her deal is that she's very smart. She's just kind of undisciplined. She likes to do things her own way. She doesn't really like to follow orders. Maybe like a little bit of Ensign Rowe sprinkled in there, except not as big of a joyless asshole. I like her, but I mean, like, she's an unpleasant person. I wouldn't want to work with her. The idea that she gets promoted sometimes and then gets demoted back down to ensign because she, pisses someone off or whatever. So that's why she's kind of like getting these jobs.
That really sucks. Like, we never see that on the internet. It's just goes to show like what a superlative ship the Enterprise is. It's like it's really like the top, the top ship.
But I find this relatable. I like this idea for Ensign Mariner because I was like, if I was I would never be a Starfleet officer. I wouldn't like pass my classes at the academy. I'm not like a good student. But if somehow like I did get a commission and became an officer within Starfleet, I would be like this type of person, I think.
Yeah, I'd like to serve in like a 10 forward. I'd like to be a bartender on a starship. That would be like a great thing to be.
Like, you like to talk to people. That's why like you're on the internet talking to people. Yeah, that'd be. I would go buy a few drinks from you.
You would make a great dine-in.
Thank you. I'm so honored.
Gotta have the hat though.
That I just figured out my next cosplay. I'm so excited.
I do like seeing the comparison between Mariner and Boimler, though, and just how they are kind of like polar opposites, or should I say solar opposites? Because Mike McMahan.
Is he wearing like a long coat there?
It looks like a dress uniform.
Okay.
But she has her sleeves rolled up, so it's like, he's getting all dressed up for something. Like this is something that he's like, like, I gotta like look my best and behave my best and make a good impression. And she's.
Do you think this is Kronos?
It could be Kronos. It could be a Klingon colony. There's obviously the Klingon symbol up here. And then there's a Klingon woman right here.
I think it's a colony. It's a new colony that they're helping the Klingons settle into.
It looks fairly well developed for a new colony, but.
I mean not like new, but like they're transporting more Klingons to this new world. Like
they built it like a year ago, and now they're settling in.
Yeah.
Could be.
What's Jack Quaid's character's name again?
Ensign
Boimler.
In
Boimler,
Vegas last year, Sohel in Vegas last year, Mike McMahan was calling them Boims. So I wonder if that might be like a nickname. I like that. Boims. Yeah, that sounds like, that guy is like a wimp. Like, Boims. I can't stand that guy.
And this frame also greatly pleased Fatheree because it's filled with shuttles that are not from Discovery.
Well, these kind of look like the Scorpion attack fighters from Star Trek Nemesis, but I don't think they're meant to be Romulan ships. So this Klingon woman down here would not be this calm if there were a bunch of Romulan attack fighters up overhead, I don't think.
For real. I think he might be like definitely, he has that conversation with the captain later, or I think there's the scene where like, do you see yourself sitting in the captain's chairs? If they're a diplomatic corps vessel, maybe he's like dressed up because he's going to a diplomatic function. It could lay some credence to that.
But it's a very like low profile. It's like a very like. It's not like he's meeting like the ambassador. He's meeting like the ambassador's assistant or something.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
ensign, you know, you wouldn't send like your first officer. You'd send like the ensign to go handle
Right,
that.
exactly.
His this single frame right here, he definitely looks like he's going to be this kind of sad sack, a little maybe part Charlie Brown.
Yeah, and maybe like a little like kind of nervous, kind of neurotic. But he starts in this compromised position that gives you not only a lot of potential stories with good drama, but you could also have growth.
Exactly.
Is it bugging anyone that those little arrowhead badges cross over the white stripe instead of being set right below the white stripe like they usually are?
Yeah,
Now it is.
Yeah.
Cisco in the first episode of DS9 that had the black and grays. It's called something like Prophecy or something, where he's like seeing the future. But anyways, in that first episode, Ben Cisco has his comm badge like up on the black part instead of like down on the gray part. Because it's like, oh yeah, like they didn't know where to put it on Avery Brooks apparently.
It looks good here, just aesthetically, but it doesn't seem like it would look good on a. Well, maybe we'll have to see cosplays.
Because we're overanalyzing it, I'm going to say it's symbolic of how Starfleet is all about crossing over borders.
Yeah.
Yay!
Captain Freeman. We really don't have much to go off, and she kind of just being like generic captain. But I think she's meant to actually be like, oh yeah, she's someone who's actually like good at her job, and she's like, you know, this leader, this good commander.
She looks world weary here. If this is not just a random still frame that looks that way.
I have a feeling she's going to be like the babysitter of all of her crew.
Yeah.
And she's going to be the most competent one there, and she kind of has to like, I don't know, like kind of carry.
Traditionally,
carry
it's
some
the
of them
first. Yeah, traditionally it's the first officer's job to play babysitter to the crew, and the captain makes the extra decisions that affect the external world. But
I hope the first officer's not like a total idiot or anything like that. I don't want them to make the bridge crew too, you know, dumb. You know what I mean?
They should actually be like good at their jobs.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm a little worried they're going to be like so oblivious of the lower decks people that they're all going to be a little bit like, oh, who's the jackass in fucking Futurama?
Fry, Bender, Leela.
They're all
Zap Brannigan.
Zap Brannigan. That's who I was looking for. I don't want a bridge of Zap Brannigan.
Zap Brannigan was kind of an idiot. So
but I mean more about the attitude than him being a dumbass, though.
Yeah, I don't want Zap Brannigan, and that does. I am kind of worried that might be the case with Commander Ransom.
Well, they kind of there's a bro moment in there where they're like, "Nice second contact, yeah, bro."
And Mike McMahan has described Commander Ransom. We'll get to him in a minute, but he's described him as kind of like Commander Riker, but with less shame, and if he did speed. That worries me. I don't.
I would not approve.
I have a lot of faith in Jerry O'Connell. I think he's going to pull it off. He's a great performer.
He plays he's married to Majel Barrett. He's married to number one. I mean, not Majel Barrett.
It's actually not Majel Barrett that he's married to.
If you play number one, you have to be married to someone else in Star Trek, apparently.
Oh my gosh, it's totally true.
There's a 5 o'clock shadow.
This guy in the front he's probably the helmsman, and then this gold shirt over here is probably the op. So kind of the same layout as TNG. You have your 3 central chairs in the middle, which would have been Riker, Picard, and Troy. And then back here, I assume this is the tactical station. Lots of LCARs. This guy in the back left, we have one gentleman, I think he's black, and he has like the Geordie LaForge high top fade haircut, so that's still fashionable and post Nemesis. And then this other guy, he looks like is it the Napian species that was Lieutenant Kwan in that episode where people are jumping into the warp nacelle?
Oh, good call.
Yeah.
Oh, I can zoom in.
Can
you can? Oh no!
Oh,
dope.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah, you're
right.
Almost
looks like
computer
in Cardassian. Did you say?
I don't know that.
No, I think
Napian.
He looks a little like a Cardassian.
I think Napian is probably it.
Cardassian. Here, I'll find you a Napian later. But
Okay.
That's like a ladle versus a spoon. That's the.
But what's up with this guy who's like had an all-night bender or whatever and has a 5 o'clock shadow?
Yeah, there's
you know what I
clearly
think is going on here? This looks like it's either like
Eye
he's
of
playing
the-
out a fantasy on the holodeck, like Barclay style, or this is like a daydream.
He is a Napian from the guy from that episode of TNG, Eye of the Beholder. Yeah,
Eye of the Beholder.
Is that
Yeah,
right?
that's the name of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
think there must
Yeah.
be a story point explaining within this scene, explaining why the con officer looks terrible. So
Yeah, no doubt, unless it's just like a running gag with him or something.
yeah,
Oh, and
But-
look here, we have some trill spots on her forehead.
Oh,
I
really?
don't know if y'all can
Oh,
see
yes.
that. A few little spots there. Yeah, sorry about the resolution when I zoomed.
This is kind of
in.
like
But-
I forget what do they call it in Blade Runner? That thing where they manipulate the photographs.
Yeah, because that movie actually never takes the time to show you Decker as a good cop or good at his job. And
Oh my
He kinda
God,
spends the whole-
Fatheree's going to break out his hatred of Blade Runner.
I don't hate it. I just think I need to
I
stop
know
putting the dick so hard on it. I mean,
I was trying to
shit,
compliment your cool finding of the trill.
but- Okay,
Father, I
No.
queued up the Star Trek official website images too, in case you want to switch between them and get on a share screen.
Oh, are there like additional images there?
Yeah, there's like the poster. We can look at the poster
Okay.
later. if
Yeah,
you
we
want.
should hit those up after we get through the trailer.
I love
Oh,
it.
See,
I love
someone
it.
has noticed your. I'm going to guess maybe Brian's cats, but I don't know.
oh yeah, that's probably my cats.
They were surmising that they're having sex back there.
No, they're Max is suddenly wanting attention, but I don't. He's not getting close enough for me to pet him, so he just.
Oh, they
Those
do
are
that.
applications. Farpoint Station.
Yes.
This is where we see Boimler like changing his
Kyle-
hairdo, trying to look more promotable.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right about he's definitely neurotic, Fatheree. That's definitely his thing.
Yeah.
There's Rutherford. He looks like an interesting character as well.
Yeah, so Rutherford is in the engineering department on the ship, and he's kind of teched out himself. He has like a cyborg eye. For whatever reason, we don't know yet. I like the animation on it, how it's kind of, it's not like a circle for a pupil. These cartoon black pupils they have, it's kind of hard to tell because it's low resolution. Let me see if I can find like a shot of his face up close when he's
Here, if
messing
you
around
click
with
on
these.
the share
Yeah,
screen. Oh, there it is. That's a good one.
It's like it's kind of pixelated. It's like a octagon or something instead of a circle. I like that little digital flavor. As someone who grew up with like NES and Genesis and a bunch of like 8-bit and 16-bit video games, I like that. But I think he's fighting Borg on the
Yes.
holodeck.
Oh, you think this is a holodeck thing? So
Yeah,
that would
it's
explain because these guys would probably not do well against the Borg.
Well, unless these are like weakened Borg from what happened in Voyager.
It looks
which I
like
know-
it looks like the targeting system in Red Dead Redemption when it glides across them and it auto targets them.
I like they took the time to animate each Borg to have a different face. They didn't just like clone the same design a bunch of times. And so
That's a good point.
there's a lot of attention to detail on the design and animation side of things.
I really like the animation. I was worried that I wouldn't like the animation style because I'm very picky. I never watched Beavis and Butthead just because I couldn't stand the
interesting.
animation style, and I know it was really good. So I was like,
I don't think this is a holodeck simulation. I think there's an actual Borg episode, and like he just kicks their ass. Like they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do for the entire episode, and he just comes in at the end, and just like takes care of it. And of course, they're continuing the tradition of eye violence in Trek. Yeah, so-
yeah, look at that.
You
That's
called that. Yeah, true.
nice.
Yeah. R.I.P. What was his name?
Icheb.
Yeah.
Icheb.
Oh, yeah.
But here we have another bridge officer, the tactical security officer, Lieutenant Shanks.
Shax.
Shax. Is that how you say it?
It's SHAXS, Shax, I think.
I thought there was an N in
I thought it was pronounced Shaxis,
Shaxis.
but I
like
could
that
be
too.
wrong. I don't know.
Okay. No one knows how to say
He's
it.
He's Bajoran though, right?
Is he like the Brock Sampson
Yes.
of the crew?
He's the
Yeah.
villain.
Oh, it's
he's the villain from Avatar.
Yeah.
Voice.
These muscle bound military old guy bastards.
But I like that he's a Bajoran because, like, this guy is old and he looks like he fought in the Bajoran occupation against the Cardassians.
Yeah.
So that's who I want as my tactical officer. This guy's probably a badass.
Yeah.
They definitely like show he's kind of like a big, strong, physical guy later when there's some action in the trailer.
Yeah.
I knew you were making
I
reference
don't know
to the
what
Venture
to think
Boys.
of
That's right.
Of our four instances that are going to be kind of our main characters with Boimler, Mariner, Tendi, and Rutherford. Rutherford's the one I don't really have any idea what they're doing with him. He's got a cyborg guy, and he seems kind of like...
He looked straightforward. He looked like he was a serious dude, maybe.
But he, like here, at this part in the trailer, Lieutenant Shax tells him, "You're a natural-born warrior," or something like that, and he just says, "Okie dokie." Like,
He doesn't want to be though. He wants to be an engineer, and that's like his dream. And
Maybe he just uploaded the kung fu program and was like, "I know kung fu," and that's his gimmick. Is he just uploads whatever skills he needs? So.
I think Shaxis is trying to push him in a direction he doesn't want to go, and there's going to be some conflict there, maybe.
Yeah, I think he maybe like. I think that might have just literally been his visor thing, his eyepiece, helped him target those guys, and he did a cool takedown. But it's not his thing.
Look at that shot. Tendi likes him.
oh, she's got
totally.
eyes for him, and he doesn't
Quite possible.
what
He
to
looks
think of
sheepish.
it. Yeah. Well,
And
you know,
there's also
not
something
actually
going on
in terms of,
between Boimler and what's her name.
Yeah, in terms of being a guess at their relationships, this is such a great shot. It says a lot.
are y'all like starting to ship Boimler and Mariner already?
I think so.
I see
I
she's
don't thi-
pretty
I don't
much
think-
perpetually got her sleeves rolled up.
I don't think that's
Yeah.
ever going to happen between two of them.
Free attitude. They're like, whenever I have jobs where I had to wear long sleeves, I always would roll them up whenever I could because, just more comfortable. And I like her attitude in this show so much. She's going to be the character that I think I really enjoy and look forward to seeing week to week. If
Fatheree,
nothing connects with me, it's going to be her.
I like that your identification with the character extends to she rolls up her sleeves.
Yeah.
No, I went on like a long thing earlier. If you were listening,
No, I wasn't.
the what do you call this? BDM or
I never knew what this is called.
The MSD?
MSD, yeah, Master
Yeah.
System Display. I couldn't think of the letters.
Yeah.
I don't know, Brian or Dave. I don't know if y'all noticed this, but look at this little thing here above the shuttles.
Oh, they've got the little Argos. I love it. Argo.
Is that the thing from?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
What is that from? Star Trek, whatever.
Nemesis.
Nemesis.
The Jeep from Nemesis, the dune buggy
man.
from Nemesis.
Which
That
I hate.
is pretty hilarious.
I know, yeah, I love it so much that it's being used here. Like
Man.
this
No,
thing,
but nobody. I thought nobody actually likes it. Is it only because it's going to be used sort of ironically?
yeah, that's the whole. Like, I love its inclusion here. Is just because I hate that thing so much that this makes me
Yeah.
laugh.
Now, Father,
I
though,
forget
it's
how
not gonna-
Larry. I like
not
how
gonna
Larry
bug you?
Nemechek supported it. It was pretty cool on Twitter. He said something about like, of course you need something for like anti-grav resistant planets, you know?
Yeah.
Well,
It's
now
gotta
I'm
be a
looking
thing.
around to see if they have the repair drones that Fatheree hates as well.
I already love
Going back to the MSD for a second, like it looks like a nice homage to the drawings and like the Star Trek technical manual
Yeah,
and just everything you
sure.
saw on TNG. It looks
It's
like a very cool.
Yeah, as somebody who spent way too much time looking at the MSDs of other canon ships, they did a pretty good job of capturing the verve of the feel of it, enough that you could start deciding things. I don't know what those big circles are in the current frame, though. What is that? They just kind of plow straight through everything.
That's where Reliant knew exactly where to hit them.
Yeah,
it's so true.
It's like the Borg chopped out some little cylinder humps.
There's so many holes in this technical manual. Like this, you can if you really wanted to get into the layouts of stuff, just a little plug, unsolicited.
Yep.
Sorry, Fatheree. Star Trek Next Generation Technical Manual.
I keep mine on the bookshelf directly behind me.
Again, this ship is pretty big.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't look if I don't know if it's
Going
quite
back to
big
that,
enough. Now, look, I guess I'd have to watch the video clip again and see how many floors they show, because I'm not sure if they're showing quite enough floors to fit with what we saw outside the ship.
Well, the center of the saucer is where it was pretty thick.
Yeah, I mean, because my impression is this this is showing us a saucer like a Galaxy class, and it should be significantly chunkier than that.
This is where we see some guy calling her lower deck in a derogatory fashion, where he says, "Move it along, lower deck." I'm guessing this is after she had done something to annoy him, but that's actually a real term from the Navy. You have your upper deck personnel and your lower deck personnel.
Oh,
yeah. Such an unevolved attitude at this point in Star Trek history.
Well,
it seems like they missed a chance to do a sort of officer versus enlisted thing with this series, which I guess the existence of the enlisted personnel always seems to be a shadowy Loch Ness monster in Star Trek continuity. But that this would have been a chance to actually shine a light on it, and they did not take that chance.
Yeah, I think TOS was the only show that really understood having officers and having non-commissioned personnel as well. I think
there's one episode of DS9 where they get it right.
Yeah, but where they actually, the Jemadar are like, oh yeah, this guy O'Brien, he's a non-com. That means a non-commissioned officer.
Yeah,
he's a chief petty officer. It's like almost spoon feeding it. Yeah, I think the further you get away from World War II and even Vietnam, I think your average person, your average audience member, and also average Star Trek writer that probably has a poor understanding of what an enlisted man is versus what an officer is.
I'm sure that's true. Yeah, there's just.
I feel like I need
a good thing, maybe a little bit less veneration of the military on just sort of a basic level, which might be healthy.
Yeah, but I mean, you have your officers who are they're the people who have education at the academy, and
right.
This when you have ensign, lieutenant, on up to commander, captain, whatever, and then you would also have your unenlisted people, which O'Brien is the biggest example. And then there's who's that guy that's getting grilled by the judge in the Drumhead? He washed out from the academy. The guy has Romulan grandfather.
Yeah, I remember
Tarsus. I think his name is Tarsus.
Yeah, Tarsus. If you go back on the original series, a lot of the guys in the those coverall work suits, Mr. Kyle, a lot of those were kind of established to be your. They would often call them crewmen because they were they weren't an ensign. They didn't have a rank. They were enlisted instead of commissioned.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Like crewman Dax in Star Trek 6.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Exactly.
Now, do we it seems like the Federation in this time period should be a little bit past friction between officers and enlisted men, right?
Well, they're both officers here.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I think this is after she did something to annoy him.
Okay. He looks like a cranky Barkley.
Yeah, maybe he's just
That's what PJ said.
Cranky
He called it PJ.
Clearly,
Barkley would never call an Orion girl a lower deck. He would not have the gut nerve.
Talk to an Orion girl.
Yeah.
He would just turn into a mute. like that guy on.
Do you think they're going to do her superpower from the Orions had in, say, Enterprise, where they can basically just take control of people?
I think they're going to have to address it. Like maybe like part of being in Starfleet Academy, like she has to take she's required to take a hormone suppressant. So like
have an oath of celibacy.
It could be like
and all of that.
Lieutenant Aelia took a vow of celibacy when she.
But that's because Gene Roddenberry was a weird pervert.
Yeah.
No, but what I'm saying is like Delton. I guess Delton women have a superpower of like, you know, their pheromones are like insane or something. So she promised to be celibate so that she
Star Trek has always been a little bit vague on the rules of like Deltons, telepaths, betazoids, and all of that. That could potentially be huge issues of consent that Trek just they don't seem to dive into it very often.
I suppose
I think they'll deal with it.
If one's going to go by the standard of Star Trek the motion picture and taking the novelization into account, then no, she would not have to restrain her pheromones. She would just have to take an oath that she would not use them to unfairly influence people. Correct. If you were going to use the motion picture as a precedent for this question.
I feel like that's the most Federation thing. Like I feel like that's the most Federation-y type thing.
But in the motion picture, the way it is when you watch it, when she walks into the room, when she walks into the bridge, and she's like, "I've taken a vow of celibacy." She only says that because everybody leers at her, like they want to they want to go at her. So she's like, "Yeah, I don't have sex. Leave me alone."
Leave me alone.
Anyway, I think it'd be like a possible story that you could tell where they're doing something and I kind of like the idea like she has to like suppress her pheromones. You can see hormones. She has to like suppress her pheromones, and then there comes a time when they're like, "Fuck, there's no other way to do this. Tindy, I know you're going to be very uncomfortable, but we need you to seduce this person so that we can." She's like, "What? I don't want to do that." And then like she like reluctantly like turns on the Orion charm or something. I think that's a funny story.
Yeah, there's potential there. Funny. Potential for it to go horribly wrong too, but and be a horrible embarrassment.
It looks like she was just asked that.
They have some freckles. That's kind of cute, green freckles. Yeah. I never had freckles on Orion before.
I approve of the freckles.
And then we get this little blurb. There's the crew on the bridge, and then it cuts to. I think that the four bridge characters we're going to see the most with Shax, Ransom, Freeman, and Dr. Tiana. And this is another thing here that concerns me. I don't mind them doing a joke, a little wink at Kirk in the original series, and show like the handsome leading man having his shirt ripped or something during some combat. But him like ripping it off himself is it's a little silly, and it's kind of like cartoon logic.
Again, we don't know the context. It might be that whatever he's got a spear in his hand, maybe he's going to fight a duel, and you have to go bare chested to fight the duel. I don't know. I mean, there could be so there could be an explanation in context that's what he's got to do. But
some dudes just like taking their shirt off, though. I mean, come on, like what about that? Like, and some ladies like taking their shirts off too, for that matter.
Fighting the Hulk in the arena battles.
It does remind me of that. It's true.
Do we know what alien he's fighting?
No idea.
It could be an Orion.
That's what I was wondering, if it was like a pale Orion.
Yeah, it's very cartoonish and overblown, but given what we've seen of Orion males, you can't rule it out.
The people in the audience look vaguely green themselves there.
It might be Orion. Or he could be like a genetically enhanced Orion.
Yeah.
I noticed the people in the audience are the same pale green and not like the darker green we usually see Orions as.
Well, human.
That guy, he's the guy whose heart was in Tendy's hands in the beginning of the trailer, right?
Yeah. This guy, he's a lieutenant commander. He is part of the bridge crew, as this trailer would lead us to believe. But this is where you get like that bro moment between him and Commander Ransom. Nothing like a cold beer after a smooth second contact. And then they do like this weird chest bump.
What are they talking about beer? What don't they mean synthahol?
Well, beer could be a form of synthahol.
Yeah, you could have synthetic alcohol in your beer.
Also,
So is that
people
a
in Star
cargo?
Trek
That's a cargo
drink
bay. I see the
synthahol.
transporter.
Some people in Star Trek drink the real alcohol.
That's true.
Yep.
Some people drink synthahol.
Sorry and brandy. Some people do snakeweed.
That's true.
Oh, snake leaf.
Oh, snake leaf. Sorry.
There's a part of me that wants to put in a communicator bleeps as they chest bump as they
Yeah, that would be
communicators
really
get
funny.
pushed.
That's great.
I like it's like kind of weird how like they look like, oh well, we're gonna high five. Oh, we're gonna like no, we're gonna snap our finger. No, we're gonna like chest bump. It's just like again, like it's something that feels like a little bit more cartoon logic-y than like real Star Trek type stuff, but whatever.
If you know, the whole show is going to be like goofy and silly like this, it seems.
Right.
And
I think so. Yeah, Fatheree, that internal logic may break down in about 2 seconds of the show.
I mean, I feel like I've never been sold anything but a comedy.
they're
I
going to
feel like
say
I've never been sold anything but a comedy from all the marketing and everything. Like I'm not surprised at all that it's going to be like a slapstick comedy.
If you listen to what Mike McMahan has said recently, and I think it was Entertainment Weekly a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
The term that he used was socio-emotional. He said that this show is going to be telling. It's what?
That's new. I've never heard that before. Socio-emotional.
Yeah,
it's like
I don't even know what that really means.
Okay.
He basically said, like, you know how a lot of times in Star Trek, specifically The Next Generation, there would be like a cool, big sci-fi story as your A story, and then you'd have something with like the characters going on in the B story, like Data learns how to paint, or Beverly is trying to organize a play, or something like that. And he said that with Lower Decks, they're still going to have like those big sci-fi traditional Star Trek stories, and they're going to take those more seriously, but it's going to be flipped to where that is the B story, and then the A story is going to be these socio-emotional stories that involve the 4 ensigns that are the focus of the show.
Okay, right on.
But I don't see any of that.
I feel like it's still been sold as a comedy, though. I mean, like it's not like I've never seen anything but funniness from it. You know, like I don't know.
But I don't want it to be like strictly comedy. I do want it to have like some seriousness and some drama to it.
Well, there is that shot that's coming up where the aliens are on their planet and something catastrophic is happening.
Oh, something catastrophic happened. Yeah.
I love the shuttle flying around. I think
What's an example of like an animated show that you've seen recently that you would like Lower Decks to resemble in like that format style, like where it's just the right amount of comedy with just the right amount of seriousness, but then also, you know, like that kind of thing?
King of the Hill.
Okay. I remember seeing a few of those shows. Yeah.
I just use that as an example of a show that you can totally see like that show happening in real life. You know, I don't want this to feel like real life. I want it to feel like Star Trek, but I want it to have, you know, kind of like that 1 foot in that's toned down enough to be like grounded and believable by Star Trek standards.
So not like the Simpsons of Star Trek, but more like the King of the Hill of Star Trek.
Yeah, I do like how King of the Hill felt like it could be real life. I want Lower Decks to feel like it could be real Star Trek.
I think I have a good feeling about it. I really do. I think that it might be that kind of vibe.
And I think I figured out what they're doing here in this screenshot just now. I saw earlier on Mariner's pad, she had something about like cleaning carbon filters. So I think it's like a big carbon filter that like extracts the carbon from all the CO2 in the air, and that's how like they
look at that.
It would be cool to find out how they do that.
It's not the evil tar from earlier.
I don't think so. Well, that even evil tar could be connected to Armis from Skin of Evil that killed Tasha Yar.
I was wondering if it might be some joke about that.
It's turning people into like hate zombies because it was like all like the bad negative emotion. That's why it was like a hateful.
What was the end of that? What was his fate in that? Did they maroon him?
Picard blew him up. Yeah, Picard. After everyone comes back on the Enterprise, Picard launches a torpedo down and blows up that area. And he says in his captain's log that like, well, no, he doesn't blow up Armis. He blows up the shuttlecraft to make sure that he can never return. So I guess he's he's not killed, but he's like
That's a good theory. I think they're going to find him in an episode of Lower Decks.
That'd be really funny. It would technically be a second contact. Wait, going back to that previous shot.
There would. Exactly.
carbon filter.
What is no? Well, is that another angle of the shuttlecraft?
That is
Back
a
there?
different shuttlecraft. I think this might be like a shuttlecraft
Oh,
that's
okay.
undergoing maintenance in the cargo bay, or it could be.
Oh,
I think
right
it's.
on.
No, that's a work bee. Doesn't have any nacelles on it.
It's way too big to be a traditional work bee, but it could be some sort of TNG era travel pod.
Yeah, it's cool. It is like they're in some kind of workspace, like a. I think I'm really excited about all the new sections of the ship we might see. Also, from just the fact that animation is so like you can easily create sets. I mean, like it's not like you have to build all these, right? Like
Right.
so we can see like
Lower deck stuff and like
right.
the premise of the show I love about seeing the guys in the lower decks of the ship. I always wonder in stuff like the other Star franchise when you see all these stormtroopers walking around on the Death Star and stuff. I am always kind of curious about like what's a day in the life of them like. You know, like my idea for a Star Trek show that I've always kind of had in the back of my head is like I want to see like someone who works in engineering and they like wake up in the morning, they had a long night the night before, you know, working, they have to get up early and go like bust their ass in engineering. And then like the captain and the first officer, they're doing all this crazy stuff on the bridge and the ship is like going to warp, encountering alien ships, and encountering space anomalies, all this stuff. And like in engineering, like everything's falling apart and they're like running around scrambling, trying to repair everything. And it's kind of like no one kind of notices what all they're having to do day to day. I've always kind of wanted to see a show from like that perspective. And I think Lower Decks is similar to that.
I agree.
But also has what are like zombies created by black tar. And here is where we see Shax being like the strong badass. Also, when you have a cyborg like Rutherford helping you, I guess it's easier to like knock open a door. But he's carrying Boimler covered in purple goo and orange shorts. So this is very weird to look at out of context.
Yes.
But yeah, Shax is the action man. This is the guy who's going to be like the action hero.
Yeah.
Does anybody else
I'm
think
picking
that-
up. You're right, Brock Sampson. So
Yeah.
And then I like Captain Freeman here. She looks like a badass Starfleet. Oh, there's the Trill girl that we saw working ops in the
yeah, like
oh yeah,
on the bridge.
the phasers seem to fit right in with continuity.
Oh. When they have this part of the trailer, it is the TNG era sound effect for the phaser, which I thought was a really nice touch.
Oh yes, I did notice that. Now that you remind me. That's not my cat, by the way. My cats are quiet at the moment.
Yeah, my cat just pooped, and like all cats, he's very excited because he weighs less now.
Cool.
that is like a thing cats do. It's so funny.
It's so weird.
We all have cats. Does Father have a cat?
No,
PJ has
I'm
a
not.
cat, I
I'm
think.
not a cat person.
My wife is enough cat person for all of us.
Yeah, this is a cool shot of the ship, and it gives you
It's
like a really good.
beautiful shot,
Yeah, it's
Where-
like a great idea of like the length of it.
I like the profile view of the California class.
It's a beautiful looking ship. I mean, that poster didn't do it justice when that
Yeah,
came
that
out.
first poster is like the ugliest angle you could photograph the ship from.
Like the Discovery era stuff, it seems like it's got sort of the longer nacelles. Am I right?
Yeah,
Or does
but
it just how?
unlike the Discovery, this has a nice profile view. If you look at like a profile view of the Discovery, it looks terrible because it's just like two straight lines, one on top of the other, and they're like a little staggered.
This would have been a retro version of this would have been an interesting design for the Discovery. I think like it might have been a cooler silhouette.
And then I don't know how serious they're going to play stuff like this, but you know, here we have a planet in danger of a nova or exploding moon or whatever that is. And, you know,
It
I
looks
think
like
there's dialogue.
Moon, yeah.
There's dialogue in the trailer overlapping this where Captain Freeman is saying something about like, you know, lives are in danger, but you know, our crew is up to the task. So I think the types of missions the ship goes on will often if unless Mike McMahon's a liar, I think a lot of the missions they go on are going to be kind of serious Starfleet things, and the comedy is going to come from more of like the character side of stuff.
Do you think like in an animated way, like the tone could also? Would you be happy with the tone that's similar to the Orville? Because I feel like that's kind of like the tone that a lot of people are saying that this will be.
I'm not sure.
Are
I've
you
only
an
seen like
Orville fan? I don't
6
remember.
episodes of the Orville, and I didn't like it. And
That's a beautiful shot right there.
That was also-
it's nice.
yeah.
probably the best in the whole out of all the material we've been exposed to so far.
So
Is there-
windowed bridges is like
Yeah.
a thing forever now, right? Like
Well,
It's
I,
weird. The Orville's kind of like goofy attitude doesn't particularly bother me on the Orville because it's not Star Trek,
'Cause it's not,
but on an official
in
Star Trek thing, it bugs me a little bit.
yeah. Are there people in that navigational deflector pod, or is that like a generally
It has-
unmanned structure?
It has windows on it, so I think people probably do go down
All
there.
right,
I mean,
so
like,
you actually have a turbolift running through the warp nacelles, despite the fact that the whole point of putting the warp nacelles on pylons was to keep the dangerous energies away from the crew. But to get to your duty station, you have to pass through the inside of the thing that was too dangerous to have near the saucer section.
or you beam
I
down.
think they probably,
I mean, like,
I think they probably.
know,
It's
this
a
is-
testament to.
This
Well,
isn't
I
the
think
first.
it's a testament to like. Sorry, I keep interrupting.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say I think that it's a testament to like how transporter technology already by Picard is just like you don't even think about it. Like I think that maybe it affects the design logic of ships as well. Is that like it's so reliable that they're like, you know what, we do have an auxiliary method of getting to this section, but for whatever reason, physics wise or instrumentation wise, it makes sense to have it so far apart from the rest of the ship, so we can just beam crew back and forth. And worst case scenario, there might be like a landing or something there, and you can take a shuttle to it.
There could be a shaft that extends down from the bottom of the saucer to that section.
This kind of flips
could also-
down and
That would be zany.
stops everyone and then flips back up.
Why would it not? Yeah, why wouldn't you just make that a permanent connection point?
I don't know.
It's funnier if it sticks out like a dick every time.
Like the ship gets an erection.
Yeah.
It is showing
But
its
the-
red lipstick in
And
this shot.
It's itself facing. Y'all are weird.
But they're so dignified in Picard's show that in Picard that they would never comment on it. But this crew might be different.
The nacelles are something that like you can go inside of for like maintenance or something. So it could be that like you only go into this deflector area for like special occasions. You might not have people who work in there every day.
Yeah. If it wasn't for the, as you point out, the lit windows, I would just assume that you only go down there for special maintenance, like the big boom on the Reliant on the Avenger or the Miranda class, with the torpedo launcher. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be unmanned most of the time.
Automated, yeah.
And I guess they eat ramen noodles. So that's supposed to be as like noodle cup.
Sure looks like cup of noodles.
Super, yeah.
2020.
So.
It's going to be like that. What's that meme about Riker? Butt firing photon torpedoes when he sits on consoles or whatever. Are we going to finally find out what happens when people spill stuff on them and stuff like that?
I mean, I assume it's all spill proof. Like she's got stuff spilled on there and everything's still functional. It would just work anyways.
Yeah, I would. They
we
do
don't know.
look.
She may be like, "Oh shit! I just fired the photon torpedo."
I'd be more worried about her causing a bunch of problems by taking a rag and trying to wipe it up than that the soup itself would cause a problem.
I like his annoyance at her, where he's like, "I'm trying to take this seriously, and you're ruining it," or whatever they're doing. But then we get like the silly song with the blast shields on the shuttlecraft.
That was the part I hated.
Yeah, that was the worst joke in the trailer. That was the moment where I was like, "Oh no!"
I hope they don't make her.
I felt like Chekhov when he finds that Botany Bay seatbelt in Star Trek 2. It's like,
this is not like adult This is a lot of adult film anti-humor stuff, where it's like, oh, if you show something that's not funny and you leave it on screen long enough, people will laugh at it. It's like, oh yeah, that's what you do when you can't write a real joke.
Yeah.
You know what? There's something to be said for timing that goes ridiculously overboard in places. I can enjoy sometimes the Family Guy gag. I don't think all gags have to follow some preordained set of rules. But that said, it didn't connect.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did anybody like it? Was anybody like, that's great?
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was fun.
I get the feeling she probably might be like this perpetually annoying character, and that might not be a good thing. Because they portray her as like this super hyperactive, like annoying kind of a bully at the beginning of that, when she's like teasing him and stuff.
Not like a
but if,
not like make him go postal and shoot up the internet.
I'm just saying, like, but this trailer doesn't really show the best features of her character.
It does. It shows some good stuff right here when this Bolian gets stabbed with a spear. I guess this is the first time we confirmed Bolians have blue blood. Oh, Brian, I think these are the green guys we saw in like that Coliseum. And then
yeah, you're right. They got the same ear jobs.
I don't like doing this. I don't like doing like the frame by frame because I don't want to figure out the story ahead of time. But this is where we see her as being a badass, a redeemable character who has some positive traits, PJ. Is when she says, "We live on a spaceship. No one is going to die from a spear wound," or something like that. I think she called it a spaceship instead of a starship. Like, that sounds like you're trying to write like 2020 dialogue. But she rips off part of her uniform to make a tourniquet. She patches up the Bolian to stop the bleeding. And then she goes and kicks ass against like these people that are throwing spears at them.
And doesn't it seem like that the first officer doesn't really know what he's doing there?
Her sleeve is magically repaired. I'm guessing we're just seeing the stuff out of order.
Or he's dumbfounded that she's like braver than he is, or whatever. Yeah, it's really true.
Yeah, maybe he's like, "Oh, I thought you were a slacker. You're actually a really good Starfleet officer," and makes me think maybe I feel a little insecure about myself right now because you're doing a lot better job than me.
Or maybe that's she's about to take this diplomatic incident and escalate it wildly, isn't she?
It's true.
I have no idea what the hell is going on here. We have a pig
Jesus Christ.
Mariner is in her underwear, and Boimler is being swallowed by a giant spider. Y'all's guess is as good as mine. This was obviously.
I'm going to predict this scene is one of those where they're like, things sure got weird on Cestus 8, and then they're going to smash cut to this crazy shit and never explain it.
I think this is here to get the Rick and Morty people to show up.
I don't want to do like the smash cut stuff. Like, oh, this is like that time that me and Samuel L. Jackson played poker in New Orleans with Barney the dinosaur, and then it cuts to it. It's like
I'm going to say that I feel like that is what's going to happen, and there is Barney the dinosaur in this photo.
No, I hate that style of comedy.
Yeah.
And she says, "You got this." Like she doesn't care. She's being a dick again.
Well, she's certainly not trying to help. She wouldn't be sitting there if she was trying to help. She's clearly figured out that this isn't as dangerous as it might look.
He's getting thrown around.
But yeah, Boimler seems like he gets tossed around a lot. I like this. I like this little shot of look, a Vulcan. That's so cool.
We have a Vulcan. We have an Andorian because it is animated, and you can have a lot of characters. You don't have to worry about paying extras. You can actually have like busy corridors, like they had in the original series.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Is that a shield percentage on the wall or a countdown?
It could be. That'd be interesting. Or a countdown.
36 here to 28 or something here. I don't know why Boimler is looking calm when this Andorian looks like he's really sweating it. And
well, if it is shield percentage and not 28 seconds and literally just like a handful of seconds between them, maybe he's figured something out. I kind of get the vibe that he's maybe coming up with an answer there.
Oh, this is like earlier when everyone's applauding him on the ship. Maybe this is like something's counting down like a warp core breach or self-destruct has been activated. And Boimler actually figures it out, and then everyone's like, "Oh yeah, good, you actually did something cool, yay!"
Yeah, he might have paused it and it's stuck at that number.
I'm also go back to that for 1 second, Fatheree. My alternate version is he's like, "Hey, watch me rub my tummy." That's it.
Well, but I suppose that's possible.
I'm just saying it's one of the many possibilities we should consider.
That's not how it looked in motion in the actual trailer.
I can only work with what I have. All
Fair
right,
enough.
carry on.
I didn't get like a good screenshot of it here in this next image, but this is Tindy in like that black stealth suit.
That's clearly a
Next
Romulan.
Generation. Yeah, I got this.
Oh yeah,
It's actually a pre-Nemesis looking Romulan uniform, which is odd given the date of the show.
I think it's a holodeck simulation.
Oh, that could be the case. But everything that looks a little weird and out of place in this trailer, I don't think we're going to be right if we keep saying all of it is like, oh, it's like a holodeck simulation.
I don't know. They're going to reveal that at the series finale. The whole thing was a holodeck simulation.
I have a theory that like some of the lower decks crews will be on the holodeck, kind of like living out like their later career fantasies, like,
or in the closet.
For sure,
yeah.
Just a second. I'm trying to find a better screenshot of this because the one that I grabbed was not very good. But that was the black uniform that we see them wear on like stealth missions in the Next Generation.
And that's right.
Yeah, like when Picard got. Is it when he got? Was it the episode where he got captured and tortured?
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah,
Chain of Command. Yeah,
and the Romulans in that shot have black bars over their eyes or something.
And also,
if anyone can ever find a good photograph of those commando jumpsuits, the black ones for the Starfleet officers, a well lit, good contrasted photo, because in all the screen caps they just look like amorphous black things, and the best look I've ever managed to really get at them is the Worf commando action figure that was released by Playmates Toys. So,
yeah, those guys made a lot of things.
They did.
Yeah. I just assumed they were always black, but I mean, like you're gonna look at Tindy wearing it, and these Romulans have like black bars across their eyes. So I don't know if they're like Tal Shiar and they have like technology that like keeps their faces from being photographed or something like that. And that's how you make that.
She's kicking their treacherous Tal Shiar ass.
Yeah, so they're Jedi in training. Their eyes can deceive them. So I do like the phaser rifle.
That would be a nice. That would
First
be a nice
contact.
reference because like they erase themselves out of footage in Picard, so like that would be a really funny, like less technologically advanced version of that.
The phaser rifle has not changed much, though it's gone back. The sight is not the sight seen in Nemesis, but the sight seen in First Contact and Insurrection.
Well, that could just be like you can just customize that and swap on whichever one you want.
Yeah, they look very modular.
That same black bar that we saw on those Romulan eyes, we also see here on Boimler's junk when he turns around and surprised to see someone staring at him.
I hope the Romulans, if the Romulan scene comes after this, I hope they cleaned it before putting it on their faces.
Now we have to get to our chat comment from Farpoint Station. Who is wondering if about the possibilities of that black bar not being there when this actually airs.
I think this is actually going to be there because it's not funny. It's I mean, like it's funnier having.
It'd be funny.
It would still be funny.
Yeah,
I agree.
Again, to go back to this is the holodeck trope. Again, to go back to the this is the holodeck trope, which, to be fair, this scene actually has some dialogue that hints that he is in some sort of fantasy simulation. It could be the holodeck has an auto censor program that it just does when there's more than one person in the holodeck.
There's no shame in the future. They don't worry about it.
That is what Roddenberry would say. You are right, Dave. Roddenberry would say.
They walk around naked on their on the bridge, but it's chilly.
But if
It would be
anyone's
a funny. It would be a funny way to break the no frontal nudity ceiling
The
of Star
barrier.
Trek. Like, it would,
Yeah.
yeah,
This
the
is it.
barrier. Like, this would be the way to do it.
I think the show's going to be PG-13. Mike McMahan has said that, like, yeah, kids could probably watch the show, but we're not making it for kids. It's not going to be like designed for them. A lot of the stuff might
Right. We don't expect it to get as out there as Rick and Morty, but it's
go
PG-13.
over their head, but we're full on nudity. Yeah. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, they do have the ability to, go rated R like Picard and Discovery have, but I don't think that's what they're going to do in this case.
Someone on Twitter did it though. If your imagination's not good enough to fill it in,
It's not a very big black bar. It doesn't leave much to the imagination.
You know what? They're stylized. They're not trying to show off.
If it's pointed right at the camera, it could actually be quite large.
This is a great freeze frame, Fatheree.
Whatever it is, Mariner is not impressed. I don't know if
Is that his O face?
no, that says like shame face.
Yeah.
Hey, Fatheree, odd thing going on in the background. Lots of activity. Could that be the blowing apart body from the previous shot earlier? Like a.
It does look a lot like it.
Those guys that were panicked on the planet that looked like Despero from DC Comics.
Yes.
Right.
I like how he's covering his chest.
Yeah, I noticed that.
If anyone's going to be like very self-conscious about their body image, it would be this most insecure Starfleet character we've ever seen, Boimler.
I don't know. Barclay's pretty insecure.
They probably run a
compared to Barclay, Boimler's fucking Shaft.
That was a nice repurpose of a joke from Spaced.
Yeah. That's exactly what it was.
But yeah, we got our show logo, Star Trek Lower Decks, which I used in our thumbnail.
Very nice.
Very nice.
That's pretty much all of it. Starfleet boy, you wanted to show.
Oh, you're missing the sting. Yes.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a cool character detail that no one cares about, but I'm the first person that has ever noticed this. No one else has mentioned this anywhere. So I'm going to tell all of y'all something that you won't hear anywhere else on the internet until right now, right here.
Whoa.
But when she shoots this phaser at him, notice she's using it in her left hand. And when she is aiming it, she was using her left eye. I don't have the screenshot of that, but I noticed it rewatching this earlier today that she has like her right eye closed and her she's left eye dominant and she's using her left hand. So I think she is an animated left-handed character, and I always like when they take the time to do that. Like speaking of DC Comics, Sinestro is left-handed in Green Lantern comics, and Link in the Zelda
They
video.
literally do that like the connection to the word sinister, I assume.
No, I think
that's the root of.
Well, in Italian, the left hand is the sinistra, right?
Yeah,
so, I guess it's true.
Okay, maybe.
By the way, as a one of those demon-marked left-handers, I'm all for this.
Dave,
I bear the mark of the beast.
I never knew that.
Yeah, you never noticed that, Father?
No, that's insane.
Yeah. Actually, I'm weird because I write with my left hand, but like I throw and punch and destroy with my right hand. Like most stuff I actually do with my right hand. I'm not ambidextrous though. I just write with my left.
When I was a kid, I couldn't tell if I was left-handed or right-handed because like my dad was left-handed and he showed me how to do everything like the left-handed way. Like I shoot basketballs with my left hand, but like in baseball I bat right-handed.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, it's weird. It's maybe a little bit more fluid than we were led to believe.
Yeah, I was born a lefty, and then they trained me to be a righty. But now I'm right dominant, but I do still do like automatic things with my left hand, which is weird.
Huh, yeah.
My best friend growing up was he was left-handed, and in school back then, we were taught by like nuns, and she forced him to use his right hand to write. And he's ambidextrous now because of that. But she said, like, they used to believe you had the devil in you if you were left-handed. That's a real
Yeah,
thing.
I was kind of joking about that, but yeah, there's when I was a kid, like there were parts, I guess, of the country and in certain groups that would actually think that. That's crazy.
My handwriting was so terrible as a kid that I had people assuming I must actually be left-handed, and that's why my handwriting, because I'm writing with my right hand, and that's why it's so bad. But when I tried it with my left hand, it was even worse, and it was clearly that I'm right-handed. It was I just have a hand-eye coordination disability, hence not playing much in the way of video games or sports. I loved this joke. This was the one moment that said, well, if they're all that funny, I'm in. So,
this is the stun versus kill joke,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. It doesn't really poke fun at Star Trek, but it is a joke that fits into Star Trek that like you appreciate if you understand, what a phaser is, what it does, how it works. Yeah, you have like a stun, a kill.
I actually used that joke in one of my Star Trek fan films. The pacifist is all like, you just shot everybody, and the other Starfleet, the science officer, says, oh no, we were set for, I'm sure they were set for stun, and then the security chief says, no, we weren't, and it's kind of this dark moment where the science officer suddenly, that wasn't those guys were being killed, but so it was kind of the same joke. This kind of playing with.
I love the like character animation, like on her face right here. Like I'm gonna go through it fast so you can see it like in motion, but just like the way her expression changes, where she's like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
Like, oh, no, I totally meant to do that.
Yeah,
that's so funny.
The joke is expressed by the expression on her face and the delivery of the line, not by the script itself. So at least not the dialogue.
Yeah.
I'm even more excited after this discussion. Actually, you guys made me more hyped for it, which is really funny.
Cool. I mean, like,
even though we determined that the entire show is probably set on the holodeck.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I feel like that, like holodeck denial. Like, this is so crazy. This must be on the holodeck. Like, when the Picard trailer was coming out, and we were all like, maybe that's not the actual shuttle. It's like a placeholder that they use in the special effects until they can create the real shuttle.
I really wish that were true, though. I really did wish that. That was like one of the things that I can see. I love Star Trek Picard, but like, yeah, like that kind of stuff.
Which one? What scene?
When they were
the Discovery era shuttles.
In Picard in the trailers.
Oh, right. Yeah.
You know what would be really cool if in some episode they used the holodeck to go to like an old movie. Like that we know, like Jurassic Park or something like that, or
it's an Orville show.
That's a good plug for the Trek on the Tubes Trek chat. We did an episode of like holodeck crossovers, and Jurassic Park was my pitch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really awesome.
A movie by CBS Viacom, I think.
Yeah. Now, would you want them to? I assume you'd want them to cartoon the movie and not just use actual film stock and the cartoon characters into the film stock.
No,
kind of like how Ready Player One went into The Shining, something like that,
Yeah. Now, what I would like to see is an episode where they go back in time and do a Trials and Tribulation style story with the animated series of the old animated series.
Oh my gosh,
that would be amazing if they were actually get a direct crossover with that era.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, that'd be kind of dope.
Or if they do
that's great.
If like I want them to like go to a planet and like the episode opens with it saying like on screen it says like 110 years ago, and then it has like a flashback to like a 23rd century ship at the same planet, and all of that ship and like all of those characters is animated like TAS style.
I would like the smoother motion and more varied motion, but the look, I would love them to do the look and maybe even a few bits of the music.
That's
or if they did a direct sequel to an animated series episode from the 70s, they could do like a previously on, like they did with Discovery, and show clips from that old Filmation episode.
Well, Starfleet,
all that. That's cool.
Now I'm going to be all disappointed if they don't do anything like this.
I think you have to. Yeah, there you go. So this is on the actual Star Trek website. They just have some promotional images. So there's our our gang there. But I love this poster. It's such a cool.
It looks like the motion picture.
poster.
Yeah.
Can you zoom in?
Yeah,
Can
yeah,
you
I
zoom
think I can.
ships?
Hold
I haven't
on, let
looked
me-
this up
let me
close yet.
Let's see how
designs in the
close I can
show
get.
are so good. Like compared to the
Zooming in,
Kelvin
hold on.
movies in the story, like I really love these designs.
What's her name
Mariner.
on the top? Yeah, Mariner.
Mariner.
She's really excited in this pic.
Yeah.
Her
Here we
eyes
go.
are about
This is all
to
I can zoom
detonate.
in.
I see a Klingon bird of prey, and
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Over here, yeah, right over here.
and it looks
Yep.
exactly like a bird of prey, as far as I can tell in this picture.
The
And there's
space dock looks pretty similar, maybe a little slightly distorted, but it's otherwise the same.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I suggest you guys check it out. There's like another interesting looking ship that has like that connector
Yeah.
that you guys were talking about. Like it has a similar silhouette, but it actually has a connector from the saucer section to the other. So yeah,
Its dong has been lowered.
it's been lowered.
dong.
And then here's a here's a picture of the holodeck.
Oh wow, they really went all out showing us. Here's this really cool photo, and here's the lamest photo ever. There's
In the
green cap.
trailer, she doesn't have a batleth, but here she is with her batleth.
That's
All
the
right.
picture from, that's an old picture. That's from July of last year. They showed that in
Right.
Diego.
Yeah, the characters look a lot smoother in the trailer, I think, than even these images. You're absolutely right. They look a lot more fleshed out. So there's Rutherford,
Oh,
and then there's
tricorders.
There's the upper
there's
decks.
the upper
Yep.
decks,
Yep.
the bridge
Yeah,
crew.
they've been working on these 10 episodes for over a year. So like a 10
they're
episode.
They're finished now.
Yeah. I know that, but I'm just saying, like 10 episodes, a year's worth of work. The work really shows in terms of how good the animation looks. I think like the shading and just
It's real slick. It looks real like silky smooth.
Yeah.
Right, with actually and with depth of field, like they blur the backgrounds and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah. They probably have a computer program that can do that these days, but it looks good.
I kind of want to play a video game set in the cell shaded looking animation of their corridors and stuff.
Oh, like
Yeah.
that South Park video game that looks exactly like the cartoon. Like that'd
Yeah.
be cool.
The fractured butthole.
Something like that for Lower Deck. Yeah.
All right, that's all I got. I just wanted
the
to
fractured butthole.
Yeah. And the other
Cool.
one
Well,
the
thanks
other
for
one
sharing.
before that.
Wait, what are
Stick
you
of
talking
Destiny.
about?
PJ was the Stick of Destiny was the first one, and then the second one was the fractured butthole.
Stick of Truth and the fractured butthole. Yes.
So enough about South Park, though, which is also owned by CBS Viacom. So I guess that's a potential crossover.
Man.
There's a lot of Star Trek references in South Park, like going all the way back to season 1 when they had Van Gilder show up, and it was just like in original series. What was it? Dagger of the Mind?
Yeah, I remember. I did see that one.
But
That was the one that made me the first South Park that I sat all the way through. I was like, okay, I got to keep watching this.
or
Did you
when
guys see American Dad, the one that Patrick Stewart voiced?
he was a recurring character. He was like the
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
he was like that dad's boss. Was it CIA? Yeah, CIA guy.
Yeah. By the way, it's still his birthday on the East Coast, so happy birthday, Sir
Happy
Patrick
birthday.
Stewart.
Oh wow.
I know you were watching this.
Yes.
Yeah, you know.
They're like, when are they going to talk about my show?
It's true.
Brian,
It's
now that
very
you
good.
mentioned that, I'll just go ahead and announce to everyone that there will be more Lower Decks talk, but also some Discovery and potentially Star Trek Picard in a couple of weeks at Comic-Con at home. That's going to be next Thursday. And whatever they mention there, we will be covering it. And just, I guess that pretty much does it for this trailer. We got through the whole thing. I just want to ask y'all, like, I said, like, my big takeaway, the things that I like and dislike, but the thing I think I like the most is this character, Ensign Mariner. Do y'all have, like, any characters or anything that kind of, like, struck your eye that you're like, oh, yeah, I really like this aspect of the show. I look forward to this.
I think Tendi is going to be the fan favorite.
Yeah, the Orion.
I can see that.
The POV character, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm really
I don't know
intrigued
about
by
Mariner.
Boimler. I like Boimler. He's like kind of has a vibe that I'm interested in. It's cool.
Yeah, I feel probably like I'm probably most like a hapless Boimler type. I don't know that means I'm going to like his character, but
Right.
like yeah,
It might
I
be
can
cathartic.
identify with him a bit.
For all sorts of reasons, I love grumpy doctors. So I suppose if there's one that I'm looking that I feel fairly confident I'll enjoy, as opposed to be irritated by, it will be the grumpy doctor.
Holly's favorite.
Yeah.
I do also think that I already forget his name. The Brock Sampson guy is probably going to be pretty visually entertaining.
Yeah.
Right.
Lieutenant Shax.
Yeah.
Shaxus.
I would hope that all of the main characters are very lovable and you end up bonding with them. If that happens, I won't care about anything else of the show as long as I care about the leads and what happens to them. But yeah, that will be the hurdle they have to get over. So
I'm really interested to see what the captain is like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like. Do we know yet how much of a presence she is or isn't going to be?
They're going to be in every episode, I think, but just not
in every episode, but they're going to be more like the background. It's going to be kind of reversed. Like they're the ones that are going to be in the background. Most of the screen time is going to be with the lower deckers.
Exactly. If I'd been in charge, the captain would have been
Deckers.
like Chef on Enterprise and alluded to all the time, but never seen. So.
Well, you know how Star Trek fans want to know everything and see everything and have like the
everything.
I know, that's why I do it, just to wind them up.
I think that does it. I think that does it for lower deck talk. Of course, anyone who is catching this later, by all means, sound off, comment, let us know what you think. Also, this is a great time to catch up on the previous animated Star Trek series called Star Trek, the Animated Series. I think now they might need to like work on that. Maybe call it like Star Trek, the Original Animated Series. But
oh, well, yeah. It would probably get the original animated series added to it. True.
Me and Dave have been revisiting that. We just put out a podcast yesterday. It's available now where we talk about the first 11 episodes of that 22 episode show with Rich Shepis. He co-wrote the official guide to the animated series. And I'm going to announce right now that coming up next week, Sunday, we should have available our follow-up podcast where we will discuss the latter half of that show, the remaining 11 episodes, with the other author of that book, Aaron Harvey.
Oh, yeah, nice. Rich was very great. Cool. So I think that's going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah, so if you have any interest in the animated series, check it out, and also check out our podcast covering it. And we'll be back then, and we're going to be doing all the Lower Deck episodes. And also keep up with Boat Wreck and Starfleet Boy, because they're both going to be covering the shit out of Lower Decks.
It's true. And Trek on. There's going to be a lot of coverage.
He's abandoned society. He's gone.
It's true.
Trek on the Tube shall return, and I'll be very curious what he has to say about all this.
We're all waiting. I think we're all waiting. Those of us who know him are waiting with bated breath.
Did he say anything to you?
We haven't heard from. I know that he's so hype about the show. So before the trailer, he was like saying that he was tweeting that it's going to be the best Star Trek show ever or something like that. So I just
if I'm going to call out, I don't want to speak for him, but I have no idea if he's going to like the trailer or not. Like I really don't know.
I have no idea either. I cannot guess.
Find out. Subscribe to Trek on the Tube, and you can find out too.
Yes, you should.
Oh, we gotta sign off now. Thanks again for watching.
Thank you, Fatheree, for hosting this. It was so nice to be on with you guys. Like this was such a delight.
Blast.
It was really cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Later. Live long and prosper.